Good evening. I am Marietu Sidibe and this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue. Thanks for joining us. And now, here are the main local news headlines. The National Assembly on Wednesday debated a security concern raised by the National Assembly member for Central Badibu in relation to the presence of the economic forces in the Gambia, especially in Fonyi. One of the main boreholes in Birkama supplying water to several communities in the West Coast region and Kanifing municipality has been vandalized by persons unknown. The National Human Rights Commission on Wednesday began a two-day National Stakeholders Consultative Forum on TRRC's recommendations following the presentation of the final report to President Barrow last year. The Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, Ibrahim Silla, on Tuesday participated in the signing ceremony of a Memorandum of Understanding between his ministry, the Union of OIC News Agencies, and the Islamic Broadcasting Union. In sports news, the president of the Gambia Secondary School Sports Association says they are struggling to stage the annual schools athletics competition due to lack of funds. Those were our main headlines. Now the news in detail. The National Assembly on Wednesday debated a security concern raised by the National Assembly member for Central Badibu in relation to the presence of the economic forces in the Gambia, calling for the change of deployment in Fonyi for what he calls the maintenance of peace and order in that part of the country. Momodo Lamin Choi reports.
Recent developments in the western part of the country has become a concern and debate for some of these lawmakers. It all started from the National Assembly member for Central Badibu, who references the January clash between the Senegalese forces of the ECOWAS mission in the Gambia and the MFDC separatists, which has claimed the lives of 2 Senegalese forces of the economic contingent, with 7 taken hostage, and the displacement of hundreds of Fonyi residents.
The Gambia is a sovereign state that should be in charge of its security. We all appreciate the support of ECOWAS in 2016, but we still expect the government to implement the much talked about and anticipated security sector reform, as it is about time our men and women in uniform take control of the security of our beloved country.
The Assembly debates the statement of the NAM for Central Badibu with arguments for and against, as well as the wider matter of the presence of economic forces in the Gambia. NAM's Fonyi Councillor and Fonyi Berefet take part in the debate.
I think today I am vindicated. I remember a question was asked to the former Vice President as to why, this was in 2019, still the Senegalese forces are existing in Buyam. What was the response? It took him about 30 minutes to justify why they are still in Buyam. 2016 to 2019, how many years? Almost 3 years. No change happened. So you cannot tell us today that you have concern about our welfare and our security situation. We are comfortable. We will take the cause. We will fight it. And at the end of the day, we will win and will be vindicated. Thank you, Honorable.
I do appreciate that now the member has really appreciated how the efforts we put in addressing the said matter. And equally, that I do also equally appreciate that the member now feels how we felt 2017 to date regarding the presence of these said forces in Fonyi.
Leading on the security issue representing the NAMS is the Assembly's Defense Committee, whose chair, Mahmoud Elke Sane, and Vice Chair, Halifa Sallah, throw some light on their bid to resolve the security concern in Fonyi.
The Committee on Defense and Security, we have taken it upon ourselves and invite the security heads in this country for a meeting. This was a very interesting meeting. The security chiefs and the ministers have given us an explanation of this unfortunate situation. And as a committee, we take the matter very seriously upon ourselves. We hope to report to the Parliament, but unfortunately, this matter of the day arises.
What is important is for us to take the incident as an incident that should not recur. That can only be prevented by Gambians taking charge of their destiny and working with our partners, whether neighbors or ECOWAS, on the basis of the principles and protocols that govern relations based on equality.
The debate on this subject matter ended in a dramatic fashion, with this exchange involving nominated member Majanko Samusa, prompting this speaker's intervention.
I think this is uncalled for, really totally uncalled for. Okay, you are not coming back today as far as the proceedings please. Okay, we will see.
Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
One of the main boreholes in Birkama supplying water to several communities in the West Coast region and Kanifing municipality has been vandalized by persons unknown. NAWEC officials on Wednesday took journalists to the site following public outcry over the lack of water in several communities. Ansumana Eswenyasi reports.
This is one of NAWEC's main boreholes with a production capacity of over 90,000 litres per hour and the largest water supplier to several communities. Currently being repaired by NAWEC technicians, the borehole was badly vandalized by unknown persons who are still at large. Alaji Diba, head of water and sewage operations at NAWEC, explains the damage caused at this borehole and how it affects the water supply chain.
Our understanding is that for copper or whatever material they are looking for, we have done everything possible. You will see that the cable is buried. You cannot see it physically outside. This particular person have to go and break the lock and enter inside just to cut a piece of 3.5 meters, take it away and stop the whole operation just for the interest of just making that piece of copper, which I don't think if you weigh it, it will even go over a kilo. So looking at the value of money you get from that and the amount of destruction cannot be equated. It's really, really a big loss for all of us and then really making our customers suffering for nothing.
Mr. Diba also apologizes to the affected communities and gives assurance that NAWEC technicians are working round the clock to restore production as soon as possible.
This is not the first one, and not only on this field. The last time it was in the Sokotra fields. In fact, we experienced where even our water meters, they've just been vandalized, just been destroyed for nothing. So this is really, really, really a challenge.
Mbake Jaite, water productions manager, urged the public to be vigilant, adding that the halt in production at this borehole is disrupting the supply chain, especially in Birkama, Farato, Busumbala, Yundum and Latikunda.
Vandalizing this borehole means we are losing a production capacity of over 2 million liters per day. So, and trying to restore it, as you can see, the equipment on the ground, it requires heavy mobilization of the crane. Our technicians are on the ground to come and restore, because losing that capacity, when we are already even struggling to respond to the demand, the growing demand, I would say, we cannot afford to lose any of our production boreholes.
From Birkama, officials also visited the Jambul borehole station, where we found visible marks of an unsuccessful attempt to cut the main pipes. The door to the control room was also damaged. Meanwhile, officials are calling on the authorities to help secure these important borehole plants. Answane Sonyasi for QTV News.
Following the presentation of the TRRC final report to President Barrow in November last year, the National Human Rights Commission on Wednesday began a two-day National Stakeholders Consultative Forum on TRRC's recommendations. Aliu Sise reports.
The focus of this convergence is to discuss the next steps in monitoring the implementation of the TRRC recommendations, the expected roles of the various stakeholders, especially the CSOs, international partners, and the National Human Rights Commission. The TRRC final report recommends the Commission takes responsibility for monitoring the implementation of its recommendations while reporting annually to the National Assembly on the status of implementation. Emmanuel Job, chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, said the conference also forms part of its strategic priority to ensure accountability, justice for the victims and their families, and the realization of the Never Again slogan.
The National Human Rights Commission has a pivotal role to play in monitoring the implementation of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission and the wider transitional justice process of the Gambia. The TRRC Commission report also recommended that the National Human Rights Commission should be responsible for preserving records originating from the TRRC, including archiving and digitalization of documents and information.
The TRRC was mandated to investigate and create an impartial record of human rights violations committed under ex-President Jammeh's rule. The TRC completed its work and a final report has been handed to the President and made available to the public. Saliu Tal, President of the Gambia Bar Association, said the implementation of the TRC recommendations require monitoring to ensure the Never Again slogan is realized.
We must remember that at the center of justice and reconciliation is ensuring that those who bear the greatest responsibilities for those atrocious crimes committed are held accountable.
The government said it is reviewing the TRC report and is expected in 6 months from the day it received the report to issue a white paper on the recommendations of the Commission, which includes the prosecution of perpetrators, including former President Yahya Jammeh. Deputizing for the Justice Minister, the Solicitor General Hussein Tomasi said the establishment of the National Human Rights Commission is to promote and defend the human rights of all. He gave assurances of the government's commitment to the implementation of the TRC findings and recommendations.
His Excellency, the President of the Gambia, His Excellency President Adama Barrow, has indicated recently, in particular during the legal year celebrations, that his government is committed to the full implementation of the TRRC report and has therefore called on all Gambians to exercise restraint as the government will ensure that the Never Again mantra, in fact, to put it in his very words, is entrenched on Gambian soil.
Addressing the forum via Zoom, Andrea Ori, regional representative of the West African Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, expressed his office's commitment to work with the Gambia in the effective implementation of the recommendations. He emphasized that achieving the Never Again mantra depends on the implementation of the TRC recommendations. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
We will now go for a commercial break. When we return, we have more local news stories. Do stay tuned.
Looking for the fastest and easiest way to receive money transfers from abroad? Well, QMoney and Ria just made it happen. Now you can receive international money transfer from Ria directly into your QMoney account with no additional cost. Once you receive an SMS alert about your transfer, walk into any QMoney agent across the country to receive your payment for free or use the money immediately to buy credit, QPower and other QMoney services. It's fast, safe and convenient. For more info, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sinu Calpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Begin your SUV life. S-Pass Motors, the new authorized dealer for Kia. Visit us today or call us on 3522-222, 353-2222.
Welcome back. The Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, Ibrahim Silla, on Tuesday participated in the signing ceremony of a Memorandum of Understanding between his ministry, the Union of OIC News Agencies, and the Islamic Broadcasting Union. Yahya Jawa reports.
Memorandum of Understanding was signed by His Excellency, Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure of the Republic of the Gambia, Mr. Ibrahim Silla, and Dr. Amr El-Leti, EBU's Director General, and Mohamed Abdrabo Aliami, Acting Director General of UNA, with Mr. Yankuba Diba, Head of the Secretariat supervising the Islamic Summit Conference in the Gambia, in attendance. The objective of the MOU is to coordinate the management of the Information Center that will provide media coverage for the 15th session of the Islamic Summit Conference to be hosted by the Gambia this year. At the event, the OIC Secretary General welcomed the initiative and hailed the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the host nation the Gambia, and both the UNA and the IBU for providing all the facilities in supporting the joint Islamic action. He pointed out that the MOU will give the next session a remarkable media presence which will enlighten local and global public opinion on the achievements of the Islamic Summit. The OIC chief is optimistic that the two media institutions will provide valuable and high-quality media coverage during the upcoming Islamic Summit in the Gambia, in cooperation and coordination with the Information Department of the OIC General Secretariat and officials of the Gambia's Information Ministry. The Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure of the Gambia, Ibrahima Silla, expressed the aspirations of the Gambia government to implement the activities and programs contained in the MOU. He underscored that the purpose of this memorandum is not only to convey the proceedings and decisions of the Islamic Summit, but also to convey the viewpoint and vision of the OIC on issues of concern to the Islamic Ummah and all humanity. Minister Silla also stressed the importance of the MOU in providing media support to the Gambia during the OIC Summit, adding that hosting the Islamic Summit is a gateway for the Gambia to gain a position in the international arena, as the Gambia will now join other countries that have hosted this prominent global occasion. The Director General of the Islamic Broadcasting Union, Dr. Amr El-Leti, and the Director General of the Union of the OIC News Agencies, Muhammad Rabo Al-Yami, have said the MOU represents a new stage in the joint work of the media institutions of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation towards achieving the supreme goals of the organization in the field of media and public diplomacy. Reporting for QTV News, I am Yahya Jao.
The Gambia Immigration Department held their annual briefing on the institution's yearly achievements, challenges and the way forward. They also give updates on revenue collection, alien registration, irregular migration and the GID's reform program. Ajibuntu Drame tells us more.
In the annual review, the GID shared its successes and challenges registered in 2021 relating to migration issues, documents processing amongst other. The GID is the Gambia's sole provider of document processing, such as passports, resident and work permits for non-Gambians and ID cards. Mamading S. Diba, PRO of the Gambia Immigration Department, states that since the introduction of the biometric ID in 2018 to now, 557,650 people have been registered, possibly due to the last December's presidential election. There was a significant increased demand for ID cards from the beginning of January to the end of December 31st, 2021. 201,257 ID cards were issued, while 495 people had their applications rejected and some cases are still pending and are going through verification. While mentioning last year's management of migration statistics, PRO Diba emphasized the importance of the cooperation of stakeholders in addressing the menace of irregular migration.
The number here is 657 people who have offered to come on their own, and we are glad to report that the GID was able to successfully coordinate and facilitate the safe arrival and integration of these people into the greater Gambian society. The Migration Management Unit, on behalf of the GID, was also able to successfully provide reception services for 189 deported Gambians, mainly from European Union territories. We were also able to intercept 162 people, 162 would-be migrants, who were trying to embark on a perilous journey. Some were intercepted, most of them were intercepted, along the coast.
Chief Superintendent Karalang Jaju, the Immigration Department officer in charge of statistics, GID, gives the figures for the annual revenue analysis.
The gross revenue collection for the year 2021 amounting to $103,336,940 was collected. And we also want the government to give us a target in every year. Says this is what they want immigration to collect. And when the collection is also made, we also want them to give us a share percentage of the revenue performance.
Ibrahim Mbub, Commissioner for Administration, GID, had this to add.
One of our strategic plan touches on legislation and policy framework. We'll all know that we are working with entirely obsolete policies. That is a big challenge to the state, and we know that MDAs are all trying to review their documents and internally even the state. So GID is not left behind. As I speak today, this TWG is currently at METSI looking into a review of the Act.
The GID took the opportunity to assure the public that they have various changes in the pipeline to enable them to continue improving in executing their duties. and urged taxpayers to obey legislation and contribute when required for national development. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
In sports news. The president of the Gambia Secondary School Sports Association says they are struggling to stage the annual schools athletics competition due to lack of funds. Our sports reporter Momodu Gajaga has more.
School athletics is very popular among students and the public. It has been the breeding ground for future athletes. Gambia's best female sprinter Gina Bass ran on this ground in 2008 as a student, representing her school. Other athletes such as Adama Jame, Tijan Keita, Fatou Sow, and Ali Juf also passed through the school system. Despite having many raw talents, developing them through support from the grassroots in the school is lacking. Ismail Assise, the president of the Gambia Secondary School Sports Association, explains.
One of the biggest challenges that we face is the lack of resources, that is the funds, the required funds to organize this competition. Sometimes before we even pack up to reach out to a particular zone or region, we have to struggle. If at all the Gambia Teachers Union, Cooperative Credit Union is not available, most of the time we will not be able to organize these events.
Asked about the finals of the Inter-Schools Athletics Championship to be held at the Independence Stadium, which is currently closed for renovation, Ismail Assise responded that the final will go ahead in March.
For us, when it comes to athletics, we don't touch the pitch. The grasses are there, we make sure that is protected, because that is where the football is being staged. So for us, our concentration is mainly on the tracks. And if you follow our competition in the past years, we minimize, restrict, and seriously the number of people that has to get into the stadium proper. We want everyone who comes to watch is on top, apart from the athletes, apart from the officials and the press. There is no other person that is needed to be in the stadium. So we hope, we are not actually worried about that, because we know we can stage our competition without actually touching the pitch.
The regional championship held at the Farafenni Mini Stadium at the weekend showed athletes running on a sandy ground with no tracks. Most athletes run barefooted with the risk of having an injury. However, they will be competing on a proper track during the final at the stadium. Meanwhile, running on a proper track remains a dream for now. Momodu Gajaga, QTV News.
Before we end, here is a recap of the main headlines. The National Assembly on Wednesday debated a security concern raised by the National Assembly member for Central Badibu in relation to the presence of the economic forces in the Gambia, especially in Foni. One of the main boreholes in Birkama supplying water to several communities in the West Coast region and Kanifing municipality has been vandalized by persons unknown. The National Human Rights Commission on Wednesday began a two-day National Stakeholders Consultative Forum on TRRC's recommendations following the presentation of the final report to President Barrow last year. The Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, Ibrahim Silla, on Tuesday participated in the signing ceremony of a Memorandum of Understanding between his ministry, the Union of OIC News Agencies, and the Islamic Broadcasting Union. In sports news, the president of the Gambia Secondary School Sports Association says they are struggling to stage the annual schools athletics competition due to lack of funds. That's all we have for you in this bulletin. Join us at 10 for another bulletin. Thank you for watching.